tonight, Natalya will face the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be in Chelsea Green. Piper, you hear that? Hey. Oh, whoa!
I'm alive. I'm alive. For those that know why I say that, he did not show. Don't know what happened, but he did not show. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to your Raw post show. But today's a triple episode because we have a couple of things coming up that we're going to take care of three birds with one stone. It's kind of like Kevin Owens when he did that punch to Austin Theory and Grayson Waller, knocked them both out in one shot. We're going to knock three things out in one shot tonight. We're going to go over Raw, which was a fun show, good lead in to Crown Jewel, some seeds planted for Survivor Series, Halloween coming up tomorrow, so you had a little bit of everything. Interesting. Smoke and mirrors that they are doing with a few people. Let's see a month or two from now where they are in the food chain. I'll give you a great example of that in a little bit. But we're going to go over Raw briefly. Then we will do Crown Jewel predictions. Then we will do This Week in Wrestling History's preview because I got some gems tonight that I'm going to share with you. And then we'll close out with Halloween Havoc predictions. And the reason why I decided to do that last is because Halloween Havoc Night 2 is tomorrow. And I know with all the content that we do, you can't always access the shows right then and there on the spot. Some of you tune in a few days later. So for quite a few of you out there, Halloween Havoc will probably already have taken place. So rather than make you sit through, a few minutes, even though the prediction is probably going to be 5 or 10 minutes. I mean, listen, last week we were almost perfect. Even though, we said that D'Angelo and Stack should drop those titles, I still did not think they were going to lose it. That was the only thing that we missed last week. We even nailed Dante Chen, which was beautiful. That was beautiful. When I saw him, the little wrestling kid in me came out again. I was like, probably the most excited anybody's ever been for Dante Chen, other than maybe a family member or a sexual partner. So how's everybody doing tonight? We got Halloween tomorrow. I can't believe we're already approaching November. This year is freaking flew by. Oh my goodness. But hey, we got Crown Jewel coming up this Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Now, quick programming note, because a lot of you have been asking me, DT, are you going to do a recap of Crown Jewel, and are you going to do it live, or are you going to wait till Tuesday like we have done in the past? No, this Saturday, immediately after Crown Jewel, I will be here doing a recap and review. And because Crown Jewel is happening at 1 Eastern and the pre-show starts at noon, and we now have a pre-show match, your normal Don Tony show that we usually do every Saturday at noon, that will not air. Instead, right after Crown Jewel, you can join me here and we'll recap and review it. We'll do predictions a little bit later. We will include the pre-show match as well. How about that cosplay of Bret Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart by Chelsea Green and Piper Niven? Piper Niven, I'm telling you, even though her wrestling, let's be honest, is a little bit shangada, her antics outside of it kind of make up for it, because it's not just the in-ring ability. It's also the character, the persona, if you could click with fans. I'll give you a great example of it. Alpha Academy. Alpha Academy is one of the most popular teams on WWE television. People absolutely have fallen in love with the team. Kira Tozawa being added to it, I don't like that at all. But even Maxine Dupree, who would have ever thought that she would have gotten this kind of personality to it? But Otis, man. Otis looked like a cruiserweight today, doing the cannonball, ducking the clotheslines, and, just was really, really impressive. And I'm happy that they gave a nice little rub to the Creed brothers, because you see signs of what will be in the future. If you were honest about that match tonight, there were moments that were quite clunky. Brutus Creed and Otis, there were times where you could see that Brutus was a little bit, overwhelmed. That might be the best way to put it. Listen, they're not robots. And understand, they may have worked a dark match in the past, but now you are on Monday Night Raw. This is not the draft. You are not only having a match, you are defeating one of the most popular tag teams on the roster today. So there is a boatload of pressure on the Creed brothers. That's why I write it off a little bit. Those emotions were flying high. You could see Ivy Nile was almost crying tonight. But even when Julius Creed was tossed over the top rope by Chad Gable, when he dove over the top rope, you saw Julius just standing there waiting to be knocked over the rope. But what's my point? What does this have to do with Piper Niven and as far as smoke and mirrors and popularity and just character development? Let this sink in. Remember when Chad Gable lost his Intercontinental Championship opportunity against Gunther? And he did like 2 or 3 6-man tags with Ciampa. And then he professed on TV that he is still going for Gunther's title. And by God, for his family, he's going to get that championship. Just so you know, since that time, Chad Gable is like 2-15. Otis, since mid-September, is 0-12. And let this sink in. Otis has not won a singles match since 2022. Bet you didn't know any of those stats. I put it online earlier. Nobody gave a shit, so I deleted it. I talk about it over here. I'm not complaining, because we're all enjoying what Alpha Academy is doing. Isn't that what matters at the end of the day? It's not always about wins and losses, but it's important when you realize that a lot of it is smoke and mirrors. Now next week we have a 4-way to determine who is Gunther's next victim. And, a lot of people think that Ivar's getting that opportunity, and I'm not sold as of yet. Xia Li, she has a 2-minute match with Candice LeRae, knocks her out. They call for the bell. And I see people online, wow, they're finally pushing Xia Li. Yeah, they're giving it a badass character back. Let's see what happens a month from now. Just like Dragon Lee after he had that masterpiece against Dominic Mysterio. And what happened after that? He lost over and over and over again, teaming up with Cameron Grimes, and he's got to beat a Cedric Alexander to get a victory under his belt. And just because Xia Li goes to Becky Lynch, say, Becky, I want the match. You lost the title. Xia, whenever you want. Didn't we talk about this for like 2 weeks in a row? It makes the Xia Li character look like an idiot. And again, on my terms, that's not a chicken shit heel backing down to Becky Lynch. That is a fucking moron. And that's not her fault. That's her character. That's what WWE Creative has chosen. Xia Li looks like an idiot right now. She could have had a championship opportunity and she blew it. No. Where is it?
Super knock, knock.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
You blew it.
Yeah.
Knock, knock. Who's there? You blew it.
Yeah, she blew it. She blew it. What is she going to do? Get a victory against Becky Lynch? And where's that going to go? Does anybody truly think that Xia Li is going to start being in contention against Nia Jax, against Zoe Stark, against Rhea Ripley, against Raquel Rodriguez, against Shayna Baszler, against Becky? You know, come on. This feels like NXT put to Monday Night Raw. Even if Xia Li were to get a victory under Becky Lynch, you know, Rico Constantino got a fluke win back in the day, and I love Rico. You know, people get fluke wins. That doesn't mean automatic pushes. So, by the way, yeah, I don't have my soundboard labeled, so I had to finagle with the buttons. But and Shinsuke Nakamura, I was watching this tonight, and I was into it. And then we found out like what his next match is going to be. Now, I do believe something else is going to happen, but it was like a wet fart. It literally was like when you fart and then like you realize like, oh shit, there's like, it's not just gas. That's what it felt like towards the end of the night when we found out Nakamura's next opponent. Shinsuke Nakamura again tonight. It's funny because I love his fucking promos. I loved everything about his feud with Seth Rollins. I loved the dark room. I love the red lighting. I love him calling people out. But this is now starting to sound like Aleister Black. Remember during the COVID era, Aleister Black? Fight me. Fight me. He's in a fucking hotel room with the lights off. If you want to fight people, go out and fucking find them. Fight me. I'm here. Like the skits were awful at that time. I'm not, his AEW stuff is fine. I'm saying the WWE stuff. But Nakamura tonight, as the promos are going along, like I'm listening to it, and he's starting to sound like an infant. Am I wrong when he's a oh dear, puto hair, God, oh we did, ah, boca, like by the time the end of it, I'm like, he sounds like a fucking infant. I'm waiting. This is Aleister Black, the Japanese version. So what are we going to get next week? And there's fucking idiots online looking for 500,000 hits that are saying, you know what, that does Japanese talent, you know, that might be a banger of a match next week. No, it's not. It's going to last 90 seconds at most. 90 seconds at most. But you know what I think is going to happen next week? I think Shinsuke is going to attack Tozawa and then not stop. Maybe we get a feud with Chad Gable versus Tozawa. Or maybe somebody else entirely different comes out and confronts Shinsuke Nakamura. So I believe what's happening next week, Kira Tozawa is just matter of fact. But, you know, I'm hoping that we get something halfway decent for Nakamura. Because Nakamura, my God, you know, he really upped his stock value in his feud with Seth Rollins. Now it feels like they had nothing else planned. It's like, okay, let's just get through Fastlane. Let's just get that second match through Fastlane, then we'll fucking figure it out. That's what it feels like. It absolutely feels like that. And how do you all feel about The Miz? Now, me, I've always been a fan of The Miz. And I've gotten into a lot of debates with people over the years about The Miz. I've always been a fan. But how do you all feel about The Miz teasing a little bit of a babyface run? Now, this is old school because sometimes listen, one thing that we have talked about quite a bit is Gunther's opponents for the foreseeable future. You know, a lot of people keep saying, who's going to be the one to dethrone Gunther? Who's going to be the one to dethrone Gunther? I don't even know if that person is on the Raw roster right now. But the thing is, from now to WrestleMania, you know, or even to the Royal Rumble, how are you going to get Gunther by? We have taken notice. Gunther has been off some very big premium live events. He is not part of Crown Jewel either. And a lot of his matches, his big matches, are on WWE television, not even premium live events. You think of a lot of the bangers that he has had. Yeah, he had Beautiful against Sheamus and against Drew McIntyre, but that's been quite a while ago. So now you have Gunther, and you really don't have, like really over wrestlers for him to go up against, especially baby faces. Ivar, very intriguing. In fact, give me Ivar, Bronson Reed, and Gunther, Battle of the Giants, 3 Bohemians. That would be an excellent attraction. But does that turn into a feud? Bronson Reed elevated his game a little bit by having a match with Gunther. But what do you do 2-3 weeks from now? What do you do a month from now? So if you look at that Raw roster up and down, especially with Survivor Series coming up, there's not many names to choose from. And now they're giving us The Miz. And I kind of like it. I mean, I don't think The Miz has any chance whatsoever. But The Miz, not bad. Well, we'll run down Raw pretty quickly because, remember, we got Crown Jewel predictions, Halloween Havoc predictions, and we're going to do a little bit of This Week in Wrestling History. So let's run down Raw very, very quickly. Just a reminder again, I've brought this up in the last few episodes in case anybody's not aware of it. This Week in Wrestling ratings is now done on Wednesdays. It's no longer done on Mondays for a specific reason. Whenever we did it on Mondays, we never had the Collision rating on time. Plus, the Raw rating that we would discuss would be last week's Raw rating. Any NXT rating we would discuss would always be last week's NXT rating. And it's almost a week old. So by doing the ratings every Wednesday now, as part of Wednesday Night Dynamite, we can include this past Saturday's Collision, today's Raw, tomorrow's NXT. So the ratings are as up to date as they possibly can. So Wednesday, we will get into it. And if you tuned into Saturday's Don Tony show, we talked about the Dynamite rating. And if you didn't check out Saturday's show, you should, because there was a lot of concerning issues with Dynamite's rating this past Wednesday. I don't really focus on demos unless it's newsworthy. Their demo was the lowest in 3 years, over 3 years. And I was shocked how low that rating was. And the fact that Sting's gift only generated 3,000 additional viewers, that's very, very telling. And we also shot down all the bullshit that people were blaming it on NBA basketball. They were putting up basketball games that aired at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The people were saying, the 5 of the 6 shows that beat AEW were basketball. One was SportsCenter that aired at 1 a.m. One was a basketball game that aired at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. 2 other basketball games started at 7 p.m., not at 8 or 9. And they're full of shit. And, by the way, I will give you a little teaser. I feel bad, but we got to call it like we see it. Impact Wrestling has officially entered Blutarsky territory. If anybody has seen the movie Animal House, you know what I'm talking about. But Impact Wrestling, after their announcement a week ago that they're bringing TNA back, all of that additional buzz, all of that, you know what? Let me tune in and see what's going on right now. They're bringing TNA back. Do you know that not only did they not break 100,000 viewers, not only did they not break 80,000 viewers, their demo this week was officially 0.00. It was that fucking low. There were less than, I think there was like 4,000 viewers between 18 and 39. It's an insanely terrible number. And I remember back in the 90s when I started doing my wrestling hotline and we used to cover Telemundo for here in New York at Channel 47, I think it was, Telemundo, and they would add AAA. Their ratings would be 0.01 was 0.00. I can't remember any mainstream wrestling promotion ever getting 0.00, but officially it was 0.00. Unbelievable. I don't know what the fuck they're going to pull out of their ass to try to improve on this demo. I don't know, but we'll talk about that Wednesday. And Wednesday we'll talk about Bryan Danielson's injury. Really, really horrible, man. That is just a fucking shame. But all right, let's get into Raw very quickly. You know, they tried to change shit up, but we realized that it was the same shit. The only difference was that Finn Balor and Damian Priest were not at ringside. We get the opening of Rhea Ripley with JD McDonough and Dominic Mysterio. We got Rhea Ripley's music instead of the Judgment Day music. But she hits the ring, and what do you think she says? Welcome to Monday Night Raw, the show that the Judgment Day runs. And it's the same. Listen, I'm not trashing Rhea Ripley. She is in a rare breed right now where her music hits and the fucking fans pop big. They're cheering for her. Then she starts talking, boo the shit out of her. It happened again tonight. But the opening was exactly the same as what we have been having. She runs down Raw. She runs down Crown Jewel. She talks about Dom's match. She talks about JD's match later on with Seth Rollins. She says the odds are against her at Judgment Day, but that's okay. She'll prove and show why time and time again, mommy is always on top. And then we get the interruption from Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn cuts an excellent, powerful, really, really strong promo. But you would have thought that Sami Zayn only started feuding with Judgment Day this week. He was so incensed about the Judgment Day and their power. They're obsessed with power. And if that's their game, Sami, you don't know their game right now? He says, if that's their game, then my name is not Sami Zayn. My name is Rebellion. My name is Resistance. I will fight 3-on-1, 4-on-1, 5-on-1. I will keep fighting until the Judgment Day are no more. Very, very passionate. People writing online, put the world title on Sami Zayn. Because he cut a fucking tremendous promo on the Judgment Day, which we have heard in different variations 18 times in the past. And it's not a criticism on Sami Zayn, but it was the same old shit again tonight. So then we get stupidity. And I'll tell you why we got stupidity. After Sami Zayn says, I don't care if it's 2-on-1, 3-on-1, 4-on-1, 5-on-1, I will keep fighting until the Judgment Day is no more. Rhea Ripley says, we're not about numbers. In fact, I have an idea. You could go 1-on-1 with Damian Priest tonight. The Judgment Day have been chicken shit cornering each corner of the ring, beating down their opponents. And tonight she goes completely against it, saying, you could fight Damian Priest 1-on-1. So what happens? We think that they're going to attack Sami Zayn. Because there's 3 of them right now. Of course, Rhea Ripley is not going to physically get hit by any man right now, despite everybody's insistence that intergender matches were returning to WWE 19 months ago. But here's where even more stupidity happens, in my opinion. Ricochet hits the ring. Now, this is designed because Ricochet is about to have his match with Dominic Mysterio. Ricochet makes the save for Sami Zayn because Sami was outnumbered. Ricochet shows up. He makes the save for Sami. The most interesting thing about it was we go to commercial and we come back and Ricochet has his 1-on-1 match against Dominic Mysterio, non-title. And I'm watching the match and the match is decent and Rhea Ripley and JD McDonough are trying to get involved a few times, distracting the referee, trying to get at Sami Zayn. And then it fucking hit me. Where is Sami Zayn? Ricochet hit the ring to make the save for Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn left. I had to prepare for my match. He looked exactly the fucking same an hour and a half later when he was in the back talking to Jey Uso and whatever her name is. I can't remember her name right now. Where was he? So what ends up happening? JD McDonough interferes. Rhea Ripley interferes. Ricochet is getting the upper hand. He climbs the top rope. He's about to hit the shooting star press. And here comes Rhea Ripley distracting the referee. Ricochet then comes off and he is distracted by JD McDonough because the referee is distracted by Rhea Ripley. So what does Dominic Mysterio do? Oh, Dominic Mysterio decides, hey, you know what? I'll fruit roll up Ricochet. I'll put my feet on the ropes. The referee is looking right at his feet and he still pins Ricochet 1, 2, 3. That's not it. That's not it. After the match was over, Ricochet lays out Dominic Mysterio. Okay, that's fine. Ricochet climbs the rope again after the match is over to hit the shooting star press. And Rhea Ripley pulls Dominic outside the ring. JD McDonough grabs Dominic and they walk right past the corner where Ricochet is on the top rope. So instead of Ricochet just diving outside the ring onto JD McDonough and Dominic Mysterio, he just jumps down and is all frustrated. It just, the way the cameras were tonight, it just looks stupid, man. He wants to dive onto Dom. She pulls him out. She's not walking off with him. JD McDonough is holding him. And instead of diving outside of the ring like he always does, he just jumps off the rope in frustration. And it was kind of goofy. It was kind of goofy. But Dominic Mysterio gets your win. Good match. Very good match. But in the end, Dominic Mysterio gets your win. We had Alpha Academy had issued open challenges past weekend, and the Creed brothers accepted. And we had the Creed brothers, believe it or not, defeat Alpha Academy. This was a fun match. They let this match go at least, I would say, 12 minutes, maybe an extra minute or two. And yes, as I said earlier, it was a little bit wonky at times. Brutus and Otis, early on in the match, Brutus looked lost. But again, I write that off to nerves and pressure, and they're in a high-profile position. But in the end, you see that these two guys, they are destined for stardom. We watch them every week on NXT. We know how good that they are. When Michael Cole brought up that people compared him to the Steiners and the Legion of Doom, not that they're that caliber, but just the crazy strength and the ability, and their style is very, very old school, very old school. And Julius reminds me a lot of a very, very young Scott Steiner. Very young Scott Steiner. I mean, they really have something. And, people were shocked that they got the win on Alpha Academy tonight. And what ended up happening towards the latter part of the match, as I said earlier, Otis looked like $1 million tonight. Otis was having fucking fun. You watch that match closely, Otis was having fun. He got the hot tag and he's moving around like he's a cruiserweight. Did a rolling cannonball to duck a couple of clotheslines, hit the caterpillar, hit the elbow for a 2 count. Then, we got, a little bit of a clusterfuck, but in a very good way. Otis goes to pin Brutus, and Julius hits a 450 to break up the count. Yeah, it's no need to do that, but it looked great. Then, as he breaks up the count, here comes Chad Gable with the moonsault. Then we get some goofy antics outside the ring because Maxine Dupree, Ivy Nile, and Akira Tozawa out there. So Tozawa's going to have to get, handed a move. So what happens? Ivy Nile hits him with a German suplex. But towards the end of the match, Otis hits Brutus with a clothesline. And Otis climbs to the top, to the middle rope. And as you can see in the picture, Julius picks up Otis from the middle rope and he is holding him. And Brutus dives off the top rope, hitting the Brutus ball. And lo and behold, they get the win. And like I said, I'm very happy for them. You see at the beginning of the match, towards the end of the match, Ivy Nile was almost in tears. I am really happy that Michael Cole brought up her history, her accolades outside of wrestling, bringing up, the NBC show that she was on. She really has worked fucking hard to put it together. She had no wrestling background. You know, that's why when you look at Lola Vice and you look at Tony D and you look at Ivan Nile and there's a bunch of others, and you look at their match history and you're like, holy shit, they weren't even wrestling, 2 years ago. It's pretty cool. And after the match was over, nice to see Alpha Academy showing a sign of respect. There's a lot of people that think that the Creed brothers would be great in the Alpha Academy camp. I disagree. Because why would you have a faction of 4? You think they get a feud with the Judgment Day or the Bloodline? Like, who they get a feud with? Just because they look like college, like they could have been part of the varsity club, doesn't mean that they all should be together. Just because Kurt Angle would be the perfect manager for all of them, doesn't mean that they should be together. I would love to see them as a faction, but you have to also think to yourself, okay, they're 4 guys right now, and now what? And now what? The reason why they put Akira Tozawa with them is just to have the fun factor. Add a little bit of comedy. It's all smoke and mirrors. But that match, even though it was a little bit wonky at times, in the end, they won the crowd over. Crowd, really appreciated this match, and it was very, very good. And hopefully this is not the last time we see the Creed brothers on the main roster. Yes, I know some people are going to bring up the draft. I remember the draft, but obviously, see, WWE did right for the Creed brothers and did wrong for Indy Hartwell. And for people, that might not get what I'm saying, I know I'm repeating myself in past shows, but, people always bring up, oh, that person's ready for Raw. Bring them to Raw. Bring them to SmackDown. Why are they still in NXT? Promote them. You have to think about what happens once they get there. And when the Creed brothers got drafted earlier this year, people were wondering, like, okay, who are they going to feud with? What are they going to do? How are they going to adapt? And he did nothing. Because you have all these other storylines going on. And there's not that many tag teams either. DIY wasn't together. Imperium was on a different level. You still had Riddle there. Kevin Owens was with Sami Zayn. Things were a little bit different at that time. But they brought the Creed brothers back to NXT. Even though they lost a loser leaves NXT match, they still brought them back. And nobody bitched. Nobody on social media, except for a few whiny honeys. Oh, why are they back in NXT? They lost the loser leaves match. Oh, what horrible booking. Shut up. Shut up. You'd rather have them on Raw and do nothing. But you see what happened to Indy Hartwell? You have people doing petitions, thousands of signatures. Bring her to the main roster. Bring it to, and then she gets to the main roster and people are crying online. And Indy Hartwell, I've always been a fan of. And I said, okay, now what? Now what? They get a pair with Dexter Lumis. What is Dexter Lumis doing right now? Indy Hartwell's doing next to nothing. And by the way, why didn't Indy Hartwell go after Xia Li? Xia Li last week laid out Candice LeRae, not Candice Michelle, Candice LeRae, and this message for Indy too. And then Xia Li has the match today, knocks Candice LeRae for a loop, almost teases that she's going to hit her again, and Indy Hartwell's in the ring tending her friend. Why didn't she turn around and say, get the fuck out of the ring, you bitch? Storyline-wise. She didn't even look Xia Li's way. And then later on, this message for Indy too. All right. We had a funny segment in the back with not only the Judgment Day, but the new Judgment Day. Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods with a little bit of candy. It was funny. Do I have the picture? I don't have the picture. Damn it. Kofi Kingston had a little empty Money in the Bank briefcase. Looked like a little, and good job by them. They took a little empty box of chocolates and made it look like a Damian Priest briefcase. But then they have candy, and Xavier Woods kind of like flirting a little innocently with Rhea Ripley, right in front of Dom, I might add. By the way, speaking of Rhea Ripley, How do you all feel about that forced tension that Cody Rhodes is trying to bring upon Damian Priest at the end of the night tonight? That feel a little bit forced to you? You know, we get it. You know, they're now trying to push this that Rhea is the leader of the Judgment Day. There is no leader in Judgment Day. But, you know, if you call the shots, you are the leader, aren't you? Like, they're really trying to push that's one person that is more power than another. Case in point, right after that Candy segment with the New Day, Damian Priest is there with Finn Balor, JD, Rhea, and Dom. And, you know, they're pushing. I think Finn Balor said to Dom something like, "Oh, good that you won the match tonight, but what happened after the match? No bueno." And I'm saying to myself, what the fuck happened after the match? You know, what, he got hit once? Like he got pulled out of the ring and they saved him. Like, no bueno, nothing happened really after the match was over with Ricochet. But Damian Priest, kind of a little annoyed at Rhea Ripley. Like, I didn't know that we were booking matches for each other. Now, with all due respect, they've done that at least 15 times over the last 12 months. How many times has Rhea said, "My dom-dom," or my guys, the Judgment Day, or they would do it, or Dom would say Finn will take him out, or Damian Priest would say Dom would take him out, and you never saw one of the others act like, are you serious? No, they're like, yeah, no problem. But Cody Rhodes, you know, trying to make Damian Priest feel like he's Giovanni Vinci of the Judgment Day, you know, it feels a little bit forced right now. But obviously that's going to lead to Damian Priest probably turning babyface. Damian Priest is going to start having this complex that, you know, everybody else is bossing him around. I think somebody one day, maybe it's Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley may order Damian Priest to do something and Damian Priest says no. And then the other members of the Judgment Day may end up beating his ass over it. I mean, I know that sounds very abrupt, but, you know, we got to get to that point. Obviously, that wouldn't happen right now. Miz TV, very quickly. We have Miz TV with Gunther. And, yeah, it might have felt they're forcing Miz as a babyface. I thought the segment was great. The Vinci Kaiser stuff was a little bit forced. All right. For those that didn't see the segment, Miz comes out there and he welcomes everyone to Miz TV and he wants to bring out his guest, which is Gunther. Music doesn't hit, no Gunther. Miz announces him again. Gunther doesn't come out. Or maybe I have to speak German. So instead we get Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci. And they hit the ring. And, you know, Ludwig Kaiser is, you know, saying like, you know, you don't tell Gunther what to do and this and that. And Ludwig Kaiser calls the Miz a clown. So Miz starts ragging on Giovanni Vinci, calling him a third wheel, calling him a sidekick, and then Vinci lashes out, "I ain't no third wheel, I ain't no sidekick." And Miz is like, holy shit, he talks. He talks, everybody, he talks. And here's where it got really like bad acting forced, even though I love Imperium. You know, Giovanni Vinci says, "I talk when I want to talk." And before he could even finish the sentence, Ludwig Kaiser looks at him like he just attacked, like kicked his pet dog. Ludwig Kaiser's like, "No, you don't talk unless the ring get out or when I tell you to." And before you could even let that sink in, like, wow, you know, you're on the rag suddenly. Gunther's music hits. Gunther hits the ring, and Gunther says to Miz, and I liked this back and forth with Gunther and Miz, even though Gunther's accent goes in and out a little bit. You just hope one day we don't get the Kofi Kingston moment where somebody says, "Where's your accent?" Because Gunther's accent was going in and out today. So Gunther hits the ring and says, "Miz, I am not your guest." And he says, you know, he's trashing Miz for having a show still in 2023. And he calls the ring sacred. Everything about the Miz is beneath Gunther, and he does not respect the Miz. So obviously you're forcing, a little bit of Miz versus Gunther here, but the crowd was into it. Miz says he's the biggest star the WWE has, and Gunther interrupts him and says, that is your problem. Because once the bell rings, it doesn't matter if you're the greatest sports entertainer of all time. What matters is what you do in this ring. He calls Miz a talk show host, but he is the greatest, longest reigning intercontinental champion of all time. And Miz starts lashing out at Gunther. Miz says he made that IC title prestigious and most respected, and he won that title before, and he could do it again. And let me tell you something, my friends, whenever you get Gunther to have that laugh, you better be careful. Because when Gunther has that laugh, he's pretty much saying, are you fucking kidding me? Are you serious right now? Like Gunther makes it work where Roman Reigns doesn't, because we talked about it over the weekend. Like Roman Reigns' comeback to LA Knight was, what are you, stupid? But it was just like weak comeback. Gunther, it's intimidating. And if you look, Gunther's not that much taller than Miz. You get this perception that Gunther is this giant of a man. Yes, he's dropped a lot of weight, but Gunther is badass. And Gunther says to Miz, you're Miz TV. You're a sports entertainer. You're about making magical moments. Why don't you make another moment, a Miz TV moment that you'll never forget? And while this is happening, Ludwig Kaiser picks up the Miz pumpkin and he throws it down. And Miz tries to get it. Kaiser tries to get it. Gunther hits Miz with one chop and just leaves him on the floor. And Miz tries to go at Gunther a little bit. Crowd is popping for Miz. I'm telling you, Gunther is great because he's a villain, but everybody respects his ability. That's the thing. Like, a lot of times in wrestling, Rhea Ripley is an example of that to some degree. When someone really works their ass off and they're really doing a spectacular job of what they're doing, people will cheer that, acknowledge it's a sign of respect. But Gunther, because he is so great at being a villain, that you could even get the Miz like over with the crowd. The crowd freaking got into it. And we're not used to Miz being a baby face. I mean, I'm not, a fan of Miz as a baby face all that much, but if he's an edgy, little bit keeps that attitude and not just gushing Miz is a lot taller than you think. Everybody talking in the chat room. I met Miz when they were doing Tough Enough. I've told that story before. When I worked for USA Pro Wrestling, Jonathan Coachman brought the entire roster from Tough Enough to one of our events. And we hung out with them, and I was shocked how tall some of these guys were. Miz is a lot taller than you think. I mean, he's not a midget, but, Miz got to be around 6 foot. I'm not saying that Miz is like a giant or anything, but Miz is taller than you think. Yeah, Benjamin says Gunther is 6'4". Miz is 6'2". I'm almost 6'4". I'm 6'3.5". So Miz, I was like, you see Miz, you think he's like 5'10". I know we're only talking about 4 inches difference, but 4 inches is a big deal. My dad is 5'10". Now I think he's 5'9" or 5'8". You get older, you get shorter for some reason. Look at Hulk Hogan, brother. Hulk Hogan looks like he's fucking 5'10" sometimes if you see him. But this was a great segment. And now, because, we're trying to figure out who's going to be Gunther's next opponent, that leads to the fatal four-way that we're going to have next week. So, as Miz is walking to the back, because Imperium is still in the ring, as Miz walks to the back, DIY enters. And as we talked about over the weekend, they got new music. Kaiser's going to be getting new music soon. Vinci's going to be getting new music. Dragon Lee just got new music. DIY came out. Gunther left, and it was just Vinci and Kaiser against DIY. And as we expected, not only did DIY get the win, but they hit the meeting in the middle to no other than Giovanni Vinci, obviously. And after the match was over, Ludwig Kaiser, with this extreme look of disgust on Giovanni Vinci. And I got news for you. Giovanni Vinci busted his ass in this match. The crowd got into it. You know, I know Giovanni Vinci is kind of like the the Marty Jannetty of the team. You know he's leaving Imperium. It's just a matter of when. I hope they have a backup plan. I hope they have something for him, you know, because the guy really could work well. But Giovanni Vinci seems like someone that needs a partner. Like Ludwig Kaiser, you saw the vignette 2 weeks ago. They did a vignette for Vinci too. A lot of people are not aware of that. But the Kaiser vignette, they tried to make him look like perfection. Absolutely. It kind of reminded me of the narcissist Lex Luger videos from back in the day. They just painted him as perfection. Remember when Kevin Owens saw the video and Kevin Owens was like, what the hell did I just see? That was pretty funny. But, we got to see what happens with Vinci. So, as I said earlier, Xia Li beat Candice LeRae, hit her with a spinning kick. Candice LeRae could not continue the match. The referee was tending to Candice LeRae, but unfortunately she could not continue. There was a lot of people that thought it was, legit. It appears to be storyline. I can almost guarantee it's storyline. Xia Li wins. Usually, put it this way, when it's not storyline, they usually don't keep the cameras on the person. They usually will, get out of Dodge or show something else. But Xia Li gets the win. And like I said earlier, unfortunately, she confronts Becky Lynch a little bit later in the night. And, Becky, by the way, when Becky cut her promo, I know I'm going a little bit ahead here, but when Becky cut the promo and she talked about losing her championship, she brought up that in this short amount of time that she had that title, she defended it more than Rhea Ripley or Roman Reigns has all year. But as she's talking about Lyra and nobody better to win it than Lyra, who eats, sleeps, and shits this business, here comes Xia Li. Becky. And she wants to fight Becky. And Becky's like, when do you want to fight? She's like, on my terms. And, Becky improvised, this has been for 3 weeks now. Yeah, it is for 3 weeks. And it's not very good. It's not very good. It makes Xia Li look like an idiot. It's not her fault, but it makes her look like an absolute fool. Speaking of fools, I don't know how you felt about this. For me, I didn't think too hard about it because it's fucking Halloween. It's like when it's Thanksgiving and you do a match and there's turkey shit in it or pie and stuff. I know it's, we watch to see wrestling. Once a year is not going to kill you. We had a trick or street fight. And as we opened up, we had Chelsea Green and Piper Niven dressed as the Hart Foundation. I thought they fucking killed it. I thought they nailed it. And during the same segment, you got Adam Pearce, and Adam Pearce bumps into Ricochet, and Ricochet still feels he wants a shot at Gunther, or he's not done with Dominic Mysterio. And then you have Ivar show up, and Ivar wants, his championship shot. And I guess this is going to be a weekly repetitive thing now where Adam Pearce says that he wants a drink. So, this is going to set up a little bit later. But we had the trick or street fight. As you saw, Chelsea Green dressed up as Bret Hart, Piper Niven as Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Natalya kind of reminded me of Stacy Keibler. Didn't Stacy Keibler wear that outfit once? But Natalya comes out, I guess, as like a bunny, Playboy bunny, or with a whip. And this match was okay. it had a lot of goofy comedy stuff in it. There was one segment that was kind of dopey. There's a pumpkin on one of the announcers' tables. There's actually two. There's a small pumpkin and a big pumpkin. Chelsea Green picks up the small pumpkin and she sees the big pumpkin and she picks it up. And when she picks up the big pumpkin, it's Nikki Cross. There's a hole in the table and all you see is Nikki Cross's head out of the table and she's just looking stoic. Once again, had too much chamomile. We got to be politically correct in 2023. She flinched for a little second, but, Chelsea Green gets all bent out of shape, and it was bad comedy because when Chelsea Green picked up the pumpkin and she saw Nikki Cross, she puts the pumpkin over her own head, and she's moving around like she can't see where she's going, and it was just really, really goofy. They used candy bars. They used Singapore cane to look like, like just candy. But I tell you, I'm not kidding. And I guarantee you some people are going to agree with me on this. There was a moment in this match where Chelsea Green took a bag of candy corn and dumped the candy corn in the middle of the ring like it was thumbtacks. And I don't know if any of you out there have ever tried to push candy corn, like squish it. If you squish it on its back, the sides of the corn, it'll swish like a pancake. Take the tip of both sides of the candy corn, the very tip, and try to push down. I've tried in the past. I don't know why, but I'm telling you, if you land on a certain way, that shit'll hurt. Candy corn is not, as soft as you think it is. But, I freaking love candy corn. I can't eat it on keto, obviously. But she dumps candy corn, and she ends up, getting splashed on the candy corn. But in the end, Piper Niven with a little bit of a distraction, and Chelsea Green hits her, I guess was in the Unprettier on Natalya, and she gets the win. So Piper Niven gets the win, and the whole match, Nikki Cross is just standing there like that. Again, you could tell this is a storyline that Triple H wanted to do a year ago, and I guess Vince put the kibosh on it, and now with Vince pretty much out of creative, they brought it back again. Where does it go from here? Like, if she just suddenly breaks out of this stoic state, are we all supposed to pop at that? Like, where does this lead? And it's with Natty. On top of it, it's like, okay, you're getting TV time, but where's it going? Probably my favorite segment of the night. Even though I wanted to boo Seth Rollins for his "cry me a river" comment, and no, it's not a CM Punk tease. Rhea Ripley has used that line. JC Jane has used that line. A lot of wrestlers in the past have used me to "cry me a river" line. I get it. A lot of CM Punk references, but people online try to say, oh, that's Jungle Boy's line. No, it's not. A lot of wrestlers have used that line in the past. But just to backtrack a little bit, my favorite segment of the entire episode of Raw was Drew McIntyre. They did a video package on Drew McIntyre, and Drew McIntyre talking about how, ever since he was 20, he was the chosen one. They showed the day that he debuted on TV when Vince McMahon brought him out. And he talks about, a little bit of his history. And he brings up winning the heavyweight championship during the pandemic. And listen, a lot of you that go back with me remember that I labeled him that night the COVID champion. And unfortunately, he became world heavyweight champion, and he couldn't do it in front of live fans. He just wanted that moment to have it in front of live fans. And he is always, he's got that bitterness because he couldn't celebrate and have a run like everyone else. Now, that will come up a little bit later on with Seth Rollins. But, they're showing Drew McIntyre. They show him at the Performance Center. They show him in an empty arena. Then they bring up Clash at the Castle last year. And, he fought for that opportunity. He fought to have that moment. And the bloodline ruined everything. Now it's his time to change the story. For Seth Rollins, it's one more title defense. But for Drew McIntyre this Saturday, it's everything. No more broken dreams. And he talks about, now, I need your help, everyone, with this. I need your help. Because Drew McIntyre finished up this segment by making a comment. Now, I didn't have time to do research, but it's something that we've talked about way too many times over the last couple of years to be wrong. But Drew McIntyre finished this segment saying that his first title defense was against Seth Rollins, and that will be Seth's last title defense. I went on Twitter 5 minutes after, 20 minutes after. I did not see one person write it. I was going to tweet and ask, but I know how social media is. People just, if they can't say it themselves, they're not going to even waste their time, answer it for somebody else. But this is what I want to know. Was Seth Rollins Drew McIntyre's first title defense? If I remember correctly, didn't Drew McIntyre face the Big Show the same night he won the championship? And I also do remember that his first title defense was against Andrade, because I remember Zelina Vega at ringside, and I even think Angel Garza was at ringside as well. So where did they get this Seth Rollins was my first title defense and I'll be Seth's last? Are they just ignoring the Big Show and Andrade now because they're now in AEW? How come nobody brought that up? I was just curious. I mean, I honestly, seriously, go look on Twitter. I'm sure by now somebody wrote something, but you look, especially the ones that have, hundreds of thousands of followers and subscribers and whatever else. Is everybody just keep quiet because it was such a badass segment? Then, we don't want to throw any shade. I'm not throwing shade Drew McIntyre's way. But as soon as he made that remark, I'm like, wait a minute. He fought the Big Show the same night. And he fought Andrade like a week later. Did I miss something? Or am I just supposed to keep quiet because it spoils the fun? So what ends up happening after this is Seth Rollins comes out. And Seth Rollins is like, cry me a river, you big Scottish baby. And, when the promo started, I'm rooting for Drew to win this championship. And, Seth is kind of rubbing the wrong way, but then Seth Rollins just used common sense. For some reason, during COVID, WWE the first night when Triple H was on the announcers table, they acknowledged COVID, obviously. But during COVID, they would really no-sell it. You never heard that word on TV. They would never really say. Later on, they did. But Seth Rollins just using common sense right now made it 1,000 times better. All Seth Rollins basically said is, you big Scottish baby, you're crying that you won the championship and you did it during a pandemic and you couldn't do it in front of live fans. There were people out there that didn't know if they were going to be able to buy groceries. There were people out there that didn't know if they were ever going to see their loved ones again. There were people out there that didn't get to see their loved ones again. And as soon as Seth says that in storyline, you're like, he nailed it. You use common sense. You're complaining about not celebrating in front of fans. People are fucking dying. People are losing their relatives. They're not getting it. People were sick. They were in such worse positions, and you couldn't celebrate in front of fans Cry me a river, you big Scottish baby. It worked. It really worked. Seth just using common sense. And sometimes in wrestling, especially, listen, I'm not going to go off the Vince McMahon bandwagon. Yeah, you get older, you lose it a little bit. I don't doubt that. But, you know, I will acknowledge that many times in the past, you don't really use reality as much as you should sometimes, because common sense will make the storyline make sense 1,000 times more. Like if Seth didn't bring up COVID, you know, the pandemic and how people were suffering, and just said, oh, you big baby, you didn't celebrate in front of fans, blah, 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 blah. You had a chance last year and you lost, you blew it, it wouldn't have that effect. But when you put it in perspective, like, wait, you're complaining about this? Look at everybody else. They weren't working. They didn't even know if they were going to be able to buy groceries. Some people didn't ever see their loved ones ever again, and you're complaining? So that was powerful. But I liked at the very end where Seth Rollins said, Drew, this is not 2020 anymore. The architect is no more. The visionary, what did he say? Not the architect. He said, no, the Messiah. The Messiah is long gone. The architect is no more. There's a reason where everybody sings my song now. And before he could wrap this up with a beautiful bow tie on it, here comes JD McDonough. JD McDonough attacks Seth Rollins from behind. We get the one-on-one. And let me tell you something. You know what JD McDonough is reminding me more and more of? I know this is a sacrilegious word to say, but in some ways he does. Chris Benoit. Just his cadence. You know, just, I'm not saying they have the same repertoire, but if you watch some of JD's work, it really, all right, if you want to use someone else, Dynamite Kid. He reminds me a lot of Dynamite Kid. Chris Benoit, you know, Dynamite Kid, you can intertwine them. But JD McDonough, man, put on a performance today. I mean, there's some people online. I didn't have a chance to, you know, cap their screenshots. There were people live in attendance. When he did some of those dives off the rope, it just looks beautiful. I mean, the guy's there because he looks like somebody you just want to slap. He's a bumping machine. You know, if you see, he takes crazy fucking bumps. He sells better than anybody else. Cody Rhodes at the end of the night hitting, you know, 2 crossroads on the announcer's table. You look at JD, you think he's dead. JD McDonough, even when Ricochet made the save for Sami Zayn, JD McDonough hits the ring and Ricochet just tosses him over the top rope, and JD McDonough lands like you'd think he's dead. I could only imagine how much that guy is hurting at the end of each night. But he's like, I got to keep my mouth shut. I'm getting the opportunity of a lifetime here. I got to shut the fuck up. JD McDonough, you know, is he going to be heavyweight champion? I doubt it. But JD McDonough, for the role that he is in right now, he's doing a great job. He's doing a great job, and it's very, very interesting. I think back to about 4 months ago when we were talking about JD McDonough and Ilya Dragunov. And a lot of us thought that Ilya Dragunov should be brought to the main roster, but I always felt Ilya would be perfect with Ludwig Kaiser as a tag team. I think Ilya Dragunov and Imperium would be epic. But a lot of people are saying Ludwig Kaiser should be in Judgment Day. And I never ever saw that. Now, imagine if Ilya Dragunov should be in Judgment Day. Remember when there was rumors that JD McDonough was being called up? People like call up Ilya instead. I can't picture Ilya like being that chicken shit, taking those kind of bumps. You know, JD McDonough sells everything. He sells the stunner like he's half dead. Cody just kills him. And then Saturday, I expect a crazy ass bump or two. But Seth Rollins, he's having a match with JD McDonough. Seth Rollins tries to set up for the pedigree 3 times during the match. Every time he tried to set it up, JD McDonough was able to counter it. But then towards the latter part of the match, Damian Priest comes out and he's got the briefcase and he's at ringside and he's taking everything in. And towards the end of the match, Seth Rollins is able to nail the pedigree. And then he hits the curb stomp on JD McDonough. And as he's pinning Damian Priest, he's looking right at Damian Priest. And as soon as the match is over, Seth Rollins, he goes right up to Damian Priest, and Seth Rollins is telling him, don't waste your time on me. Go ahead, big boy, make a move. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your cash in on me. Damian Priest, he's teasing like, maybe he'll cash it in. Because earlier in the night when he had the promo with the rest of the members of the Judgment Day, Damian Priest said, maybe I'll cash it in to Roman Reigns. Maybe I'll give LA Knight the shortest reign in the history of that title. So Damian Priest teasing that he could cash in. Now we're about to do Crown Jewel predictions, and the question is, will Damian Priest cash in that briefcase on Saturday? Remember, you're talking, tens of millions of dollars. They get more money for one event in Saudi Arabia than they get for WrestleMania. Let that sink in. So, as I've said in the past, the Crown Prince tells you to dance, motherfucker. For that kind of money, you spin on your head if you have to. So, they put on a banger of a match. But then we get your main event tonight. And the main event was Damian Priest versus Sami Zayn. And we talked about it earlier. Damian Priest not exactly thrilled that Rhea Ripley set up the match for him, but they have the match, and you got Judgment Day ringside. And as I'm watching this, I'm saying to myself, I keep thinking about Ricochet earlier. Ricochet makes the save for Sami, but no love for Sami. Like Sami, no love for Ricochet back. So you're thinking during this match, who's going to come out for Sami Zayn? Earlier in the night, Jey Uso shows up, and he has a little brief moment with Sami Zayn in the back, and Jey Uso mentions that he thinks he wants the tag team titles back, but he wants it with Cody. He doesn't mention to Sami Zayn, hey, maybe you and I could go for those tag belts. But Jimmy Uso teasing that Cody and Jey will be getting a tag team championship title shot again, a rematch in the near future. And remember what I said last week. I don't think Damian Priest and Finn Balor will have those tag titles for the next 4 weeks. I think they are going to lose those championships very, very soon. And I think maybe Survivor Series that they'll lose the titles to Cody and Jey maybe right after Survivor Series. And the reason why I'm saying that is because with the Judgment Day as your and I brought this up before, but with the Judgment Day as your tag team champions, they're allowed to show up on SmackDown. So if we're going to get an alliance at Survivor Series War Games of the Judgment Day and the Bloodline, how do you get the Judgment Day on that team when Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis are feuding with each other? Why would Adam Pearce allow the Judgment Day to show up on SmackDown to be part of Nick Aldis's team? Why would Adam Pearce allow the Judgment Day to go up against his own wrestlers on Raw? With them being the SmackDown and Raw tag team champions as the Undisputed, they could be on SmackDown. So once we get through Survivor Series, then Judgment Day will drop those titles. Then you get Cody back on SmackDown. Then you get Jey back on SmackDown. And then that goes the run towards WrestleMania. That seems to be where this is all going. But your main event tonight ended up in a disqualification. You had Damian Priest taking on Sami Zayn. And towards the latter part of the match, to neutralize, JD McDonough, Dominic Mysterio, interference, Finn Balor, is lurking around as well. Here comes Jey Uso. Jey Uso hits the ring and nails a kick and onto Damian Priest, and Sami Zayn is disqualified as a result. Sami doesn't seem upset as losing by a disqualification, but after the match is over, all hell breaks loose. Go home, show the crown jewel. Judgment Day getting the upper hand a little bit on Jey and on Sami, and then here comes Cody Rhodes' music. Cody hits the ring, and yeah, a lot of rinse and repeat. And Cody ultimately, hits 2 crossroads on Jaden McDonough on the announcer's table. Sami Zayn beating the crap out of Jaden McDonough as well, because they are going to have a match Saturday. And then, as we said earlier tonight, a little bit forced with Damian Priest and Cody Rhodes. You would think that Cody Rhodes would have just focused on Crown Jewel. But Cody Rhodes spent more time talking about who's the leader of the Judgment Day right as we're going off the air as the go home show the crown jewel. And it was a little bit odd, if we're being honest for a minute. Like, Cody was more into the mind games about who is the leader of Judgment Day than just saying, last week you tried to break my leg at Crown Jewel, I'm going to break whatever you want to say. Like, just focus on Crown Jewel. He was spending more time talking about him being the third wheel, or even, even insinuating Dominic Mysterio has more pull than Damian Priest. That every member of Judgment Day has more pull than Damian Priest. Yes, Benjamin, he called him a walk behind there. Remember when Ric Flair used to walk behind Evolution? I'll never forget that when Ric Flair used to come out with Triple H's matches, Ric Flair used to be 30 feet behind Triple H. I mean, I get it. It's symbolic, but when you're 30, 40 feet behind, that looks comical. So, but yeah, there's a time and place for a promo like what Cody said. Why didn't Cody just say it earlier? It just felt a little bit off with the timing to do that at the very end of Raw, which is you're pushing Crown Jewel. But in the end, not a bad Raw. For Halloween, with a little bit of Halloween twist in there, I'm fine with it. And, Natalya and Chelsea Green, I think some people just, reacted a little bit too much to it. I mean, it was goofy and it was corny. And I even think Michael Cole did say it was almost corny. I know someone's going to think he was referencing Cornette. So, all right. With that said, let's get into your crown jewel predictions. Then we will briefly plug tomorrow's history episode. Interesting stuff this week. Pillman's got a gun. There's a few things that went down. He got some great audio clips coming up for you in a moment, but let's first get into Crown Jewel. We got 8 matches. We have 8 matches? I think we have 8 matches on the card. One is a pre-show. The pre-show was announced earlier today, and the pre-show will be, by the way, just for time once again, 1 p.m. Eastern is Crown Jewel. The pre-show starts at 12 noon this Saturday, Eastern, and Sami Zayn versus Jaden McDonough will be the kickoff match. With Sami Zayn coming to Saudi Arabia, things have, there's been some developments, and to see Syria and Saudi Arabia having a better relationship, which is a great thing. Seeing Sami in Saudi is a nice thing. I do not see Sami Zayn losing this match. I think Jaden McDonough will bump. I mean, look, he'll get his work in, and he'll be a chicken shit heel, but in the end, Sami Zayn will get the victory in this. I think you could bet the house on this one. This will be a great match. It'll feel like a Raw match. I honestly think everybody will say, this kind of felt like a Raw match. It didn't feel like a pay-per-view match. But, to get the crowd going and to open up with a little bit of Sami Zayn getting a victory over Jaden McDonough, I don't think we're going to get any interference in this match. A lot of people think, maybe Dominic will show up and Jey Uso will show up. I think, Jey Uso maybe, kept for later on for a different match. I don't expect interference in this match. But Sami Zayn absolutely will get the win in this one. So for the main show, we could open up with this one. Cody Rhodes versus Damian Priest. Now, the one thing that I've been saying, and that's why I'm glad Cody and Jey lost those tag titles, is that something that started happening with Cody Rhodes that you and I have talked about before is that people felt that if you lose even one match, the story cannot be finished. And, when we talked about yesteryear with Dusty, this is obviously a Dusty story, done 23 spin on it. Dusty lost a lot of matches on his quest to finishing the story when he won the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. So Cody Rhodes, it got to a point where everybody expected victory every single time he got out there. And and Cody even said it tonight a little bit. If you listen to his promo, he says, my story, you get knocked down, you get back up. And that's 1,000% Dusty. So Cody losing the titles did not affect the story in any way, shape, or form. Right now, everything that's happening is to set up Survivor Series. And here, Cody Rhodes, I think he gets the win on Damian Priest. Whether it's Saudi Arabia or San Antonio, Cody Rhodes gets the win over Damian Priest. Damian Priest has that briefcase. A lot of people are thinking that Damian Priest is going to cash in this Saturday. I don't think he cashes in. I think that will be saved for a different time. And I also think that will be the turning point of his involvement in the Judgment Day. So Cody Rhodes winning this match, Damian Priest could come out later on and tease that, he's going to cash in on Roman Reigns. You got to remember, Survivor Series, the Judgment Day and the Bloodline are supposed to align. And we don't know exactly what team that will be, but if we're going to do 5-on-5 here, it's probably going to be Jimmy Uso, Solo Sikoa, Finn Balor, Damian Priest, and possibly Roman Reigns. I don't think Dominic will be on War Games. I certainly don't think JD McDonough will be on War Games. I think that could very well be your 5. So it would be an interesting dynamic for Damian Priest to have that briefcase and be on the same team with the Bloodline. So if Damian Priest is going to be exiting the Bloodline, it is going to be after Survivor Series. And who knows? Maybe Damian Priest is the one that loses War Games. And maybe that is the beginning of the end of Damian Priest in the Judgment Day. We'll see. But Cody Rhodes is going to get the win on this one, and I do not expect a Damian Priest cash-in. There could be a teaser later on. Who knows? Seth Rollins is taking on Drew. So maybe Damian Priest teases at that time. That actually could be more realistic because remember, we were supposed to believe that maybe Drew McIntyre might join Judgment Day. In fact, yesterday on the sit-down, I think it was Chris Cutler that was talking about, the idea of Drew McIntyre aligning with the Judgment Day. That would be an interesting dynamic. I don't think it'll happen. I think Drew McIntyre is his own lone wolf, by himself. But I could see Damian Priest teasing a little bit more towards Seth than to Roman Reigns, especially with that alliance for Survivor Series. But Cody Rhodes is going to get this win. All right, moving on. We have next your Fatal 5-Way. I kind of did this order of matches from the most predictable to the hardest to call. Does anybody think there's any chance that Rhea Ripley loses this championship? Tonight on Raw, they did promos for every single woman, making this match feel Very, very important. You know, outside of Rhea Ripley, you know, I have to admit Nia Jax is probably the one that I think would piss off the fans more than anything else if she was women's champion right now. Zoe Stark, I got to be honest with you, I still think WWE made a mistake the night that she broke up with Trish. That Trish should have been the babyface that night and Zoe Stark should have been the heel. But they did the opposite and the crowd didn't know how the fuck to react to it. And still to this day, I think it was done ass backwards. Zoe Stark is not working as a babyface. I don't care that she's gritty. I don't care that she's tough. She's did great in NXT. I've always praised her work. She doesn't come off as a babyface. She comes off as this smug, cocky tomboy that, you know, is even better than the guys. You know what I mean? Like if you're a bunch of guys and you're like throwing darts in your yard, here comes this tomboy named Zoe and she grabs the dart and she hits the bullseye every time. Or you're playing some ball and here comes tomboy Zoe Stark and she strikes you out. That's what Zoe Stark comes off as me. She just comes off as this, you know, like gritty, you know, just no, I can't buy her as a heel, as a babyface, excuse me. It's not working. Smile all you want. You got great white teeth, but you ain't a babyface. Sorry. Shayna Baszler, it's kind of the opposite. Shayna Baszler is kind of like the babyface right now, and she looks like she's constipated. Shayna Baszler is a badass motherfucker. I freaking love, out of everybody on this team, I love Shayna Baszler the most. I would go for Nia Jax if I had to choose a champion other than Rhea. But Shayna Baszler I like, but Shayna Baszler has no shot. Raquel Rodriguez, it feels like they're having a harder time getting her over. I mean, she's got the fans behind her, but something is missing with Raquel Rodriguez. So, I don't know what it is. You know, when she had that pull apart with Nia Jax, I think it was last week, that was great. But still, you know, like you need a disarray to get her that over with the crowd. So I think this, listen, they got plenty of time with Raquel Rodriguez. I think maybe the smiling shit kind of hurt her a little bit. And then she won the championships twice, I think it was. And I think both times we felt like, why has she got this title? It just didn't feel like, you know, like sometimes if somebody wins, you feel it, you buy into it, and it just feels right. It didn't with her. But obviously, I'm talking a little bit extra just to cover up the fact that we could have said in 4 words, Rhea Ripley will win. That's really what this match is. Rhea Ripley will win. Rhea Ripley will retain. Rhea Ripley will prevail. Mommy always on top. They're all 4 words. So Rhea Ripley will retain. All right, next. This is tougher than I thought it would be. Io Sky defending the WWE Women's Championship against Bianca Belair. Bianca Belair, we talked about it a couple of months ago, was taking hiatus for a lot of PR work for WWE. She is one of the top ambassadors of that company. She's got the reality show that is, you know, coming out with Montez Ford. She has done a lot outside of WWE, and now she's back. And despite what a few people online will try to convince you, she is massively over with those fans. Sure, some of us fantasize her being with the Street Profits and Bobby Lashley. Yeah, I could see that maybe in the future, but her character does not fit that right now. I wonder what's going to happen with Bayley. Because the thing is this, and we talked about it over the weekend. If you saw my synopsis for Saturday's show, the 2 days before, we had for SmackDown, Io Sky versus Bianca Belair. And that was supposed to lead to a disqualification because of Bayley. And then Bayley versus Bianca Belair was supposed to be the rematch at Saudi Arabia, because last year they had the match at Crown Jewel. But they flip-flopped it. Bayley was supposed to be in Rochester, New York, this weekend, and she was going to wrestle on the house show. Now they've done the opposite. Now it seems like, Io Sky was supposed to be in the house show circuit. So now they've kind of flip-flopped it. Io Sky will be going to Saudi Arabia. The question is, will Bayley go as well? My gut feeling is that Bayley will not be there. And if Bayley is not there, I'm going to go with Io Sky to retain. If Bayley is there, I could see Bayley screwing up and Bianca Belair becomes the champion. And then that leads to a split. But the thing is that, if you remember Puerto Rico and how over Io Sky was in Puerto Rico, yes, I know it was Puerto Rico was, out of the ordinary. That crowd was different. Still, social media that night, everybody was behind Io Sky. My point is this. There was a point in this storyline where it felt the perfect time to have Io Sky break away from Bayley, and they didn't do it. And you know what it reminded me of? When Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter, there was all this buildup that Jamie Hayter was going to break away from Britt Baker and she was going to turn full-blown babyface, and she didn't. I remember that night where we thought it was all going to happen and it didn't, and then she never turned. And it just felt like, okay, you blew that opportunity, and it doesn't feel like that opportunity ever came back, and then she got injured, and you know the rest. Right now, if Bayley and Io split, I don't think people would give a shit that much. I don't think people care all that much. Asuka is not even on this card. So I honestly think if Bayley is not there, Io Sky retains. If Bayley shows up, Bayley's interference could backfire and Bianca Belair could become your next women's champion. Bianca Belair is getting that championship back very, very soon. Whether people like it or not, she's getting that championship back soon. Io Sky, she is feuded with quite many people already. She's actually gone through more opponents in a short amount of time. You're running out, so that's pretty much where we're going with this. I think Bayley will be the deciding factor if she is there. All right, moving on. We have another one. Man, John Cena sold this storyline so good that you say to yourself, what happens if he loses? Like, he's going back to Hollywood. I know that there's still an actor's strike. No, it's a writer's strike. No, the actor's strike. The writers settled, the actors I don't think have. Still, John Cena don't have many dates left on SmackDown. He's being written off. The question is, how's he going to be written off? John Cena the last couple of weeks almost crying on TV that he hasn't had a singles match win since 2018? He hasn't had many matches either. But I also say to myself, it's not the end of the world. If John Cena loses and there's interference, Jey Uso gets involved, and John Cena loses, it's not the end of the world where he has to retire. Yeah, I mean, I know the last 2 weeks he's been down and sad and this and that. But if he loses, like, does he come out on SmackDown that I don't think I have it still? Or, I needed to win this match. I had to win this match. I got to win this match. Then I look at Solo Sikoa. And Solo Sikoa cannot start being this guy. They have toughened him so much to see him take an attitude adjustment and lay there like a pile of shit. It's a hard sell for me. Like, I can't see Solo just like laid out like that because they have made him such I don't want to say a monster, but such a badass, and Solo Sikoa losing, he lost at Fastlane. He's lost some other matches. You know, there wasn't that long ago when Solo Sikoa was undefeated. I personally, if it was me, I would go with Solo Sikoa 100%. The problem is we are in Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia, sometimes you got to remember that it's more about the fireworks and the happiness and everybody's, happy and cheering and, just that's what Saudi Arabia is sometimes. It's like too predictable because it's got to be the over-the-top happiness. I can't picture Solo Sikoa and others laying out John Cena, destroying John Cena. And I personally think, I know this is going to sound insanely dumb, but I don't care. I can't picture in Saudi Arabia, WWE is going to do anything where John Cena getting beat down is going to cause kids to cry. I can only imagine some of those guys in Saudi Arabia that see their sons crying hysterically because John Cena is getting destroyed in the ring. I think that you might have some criminal activity. WWE, we're holding you accountable. You made my kid cry. Laws over there are not the same as here. I mean, I'm not saying it's against the law to make a kid cry. I just can't picture Saudi Arabia like getting that brutal and making like kids cry. So because it's Saudi Arabia, I'm going with John Cena. Even though I will be rooting for Solo. And I'm not trying to be like over the top here, but I'm dead serious. You got to keep the mindset that this is Saudi Arabia. Then I could see John Cena getting destroyed on SmackDown next Friday. I could see him coming out next Friday. He has the victory speech. My time, unfortunately, has come to an end. I have to leave for a little while, but I wanted that. Then he gets destroyed. Maybe he gets laid out by Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. Because we've talked about it over the weekend. Hey, maybe WrestleMania will end up being Grayson Waller and Austin Theory versus The Rock and John Cena. Something to think about. So, because it's Saudi Arabia, we got to go with John Cena. You'll make my kid cry. You will pay the ultimate price. Logan Paul versus Rey Mysterio. I have no fucking idea. Logan Paul was not on Raw tonight, which I was a little surprised. But they're on their way to Saudi Arabia tomorrow or Wednesday, I think it is. I think tomorrow. They're doing a weigh-in over there. We talked about it Saturday. We actually broke that. They're doing a weigh-in in Saudi Arabia. Logan Paul, as ridiculous as I may have sounded 2 weeks ago, I think people are starting to understand why I said what I said. With SmackDown and Roman Reigns not being there every week, there's got to be somebody bigger there other than LA Knight. And the thing is that John Cena has been the special attraction for the last 2 months. Now you need another name as a special attraction. Doesn't have to be a babyface. But the thing with Logan Paul is that Logan Paul has no matches, no boxing matches in the very near future. Logan Paul is not doing all that much right now outside of what he did overseas 2 weeks ago. And remember, this is TKO Group Holdings now, so the way things are handled is a little bit different. And I wonder if they inked a deal with Logan Paul to be on SmackDown for the next 2 months. I really wonder. And I'm sorry for sounding like a broken record, but I also think about the kids in Saudi Arabia and Rey Mysterio, who is a superhero. And I picture Rey doing a 619, getting the pin, and seeing all those little kids. Rey Mysterio is like a crazy icon in Saudi Arabia. I don't want to see Logan Paul on my TV every single week. If Logan Paul won that championship and stuck around for a little while, then I would be fine with it, because Logan Paul has worked hard enough and has committed himself that what he does in the ring is not bad. A lot of us don't like Logan Paul, but you have to admit, He hasn't had a shitty match whenever he's in the ring. So Logan Paul likely will deliver. Even though I think there is a really good chance, Logan Paul is the favorite right now, by the way, and his odds are getting better. I'm going to go with Ray. I'm going to go with Ray to retain. But if Logan Paul wins this, get ready. That means Logan Paul will be on your TV for the foreseeable future. I think we could get a Logan Paul-Kevin Owens feud. You know, when they had that little interaction on SmackDown, it had me thinking, I'm like, you know what? I could see Logan Paul winning that United States Championship and he ends up feuding with Kevin Owens. I could see that on the horizon. Rey Mysterio's done a decent job as the United States champion, but I don't think people really are into it as much. You know, so Logan Paul, if he gets it, I won't be surprised. I'm going to go with Ray. I really don't want to go with Ray, but I'm going to have to. Because it's Saudi Arabia, I got to go with Ray. Anywhere else, I probably would go with Logan Paul. And I'm probably going to be wrong here also. Drew McIntyre taking on Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship. I'm going with Drew McIntyre. Last summer, when the Street Profits fought the Usos for the championships, I thought it was the perfect opportunity for the Street Profits. I remember the build. I remember everything leading up to it. It felt like the stars were aligned. That was the Street Profits night. They didn't win. Now in reflection, I have no issues with WWE keeping the belts on the Usos for that record reign. I have no issue whatsoever. I also thought Drew McIntyre was going to win in his hometown against Roman Reigns. Clash at the Castle, the whole storyline with him and his family and everything else, it felt, and maybe that's the problem, it felt too perfect. I get it. Cody Rhodes finishing the story at times feels too perfect. But unfortunately, Drew McIntyre is not Cody Rhodes. Drew McIntyre, I really thought would finish the story, his story, at Clash at the Castle. And it didn't happen. They are building him right now as a heel. And they are pushing this story that it's all a bust. Now, don't pay attention to those news sites online. As of right now, Drew McIntyre has not signed a new deal and this and that. TKO Group Holdings just took over 6 weeks ago. There's a big process involved. And understand TKO Group Holdings doesn't just own WWE. They own other entities as well. But if Drew McIntyre does not win this championship this time, he has to win it the next time around. And I don't think you wait for the next time. The storyline and the way it is that Drew has to win this. He needs to win it. The bloodline ruined it. Clash at the Castle. Everything about Drew up to this point, he has to win this. I am going with Drew. But what I also think is going to happen is when Seth Rollins tonight on Raw said, if you win, I will be the first to congratulate you, and I will even put that belt around your waist. I think Drew McIntyre wins. I think Seth Rollins acknowledges Drew, shows respect, and then Drew lays his ass out. I think Drew McIntyre lays his ass out. Maybe they don't go that route in Saudi Arabia. I don't know, but I'm going with Drew McIntyre to win. I went with Drew last year, and he lost. And I personally think you're going to damage Drew McIntyre as a main eventer if you run this storyline back. Because last year, going for Roman, you can't just blame the bloodline. Because if it's that bad, he should be beating the fucking crucifying Sami Zayn right now and Jey Uso and others, not just bump up in the back. You know, Jay, I never forget. I never forgive you for what you did. I never forgive you. You know, and then you do this whole lead into Crown Jewel. I must win this. That the bloodline ruined everything. You sure don't act that way. I'd be breaking his teeth every time I seen him. Seriously, look at the promos the last couple of weeks. If it wasn't for Sami, you would be here. Shut up. Drew's got to win this. Drew needs to win this. Seth Rollins has had a good run. Seth Rollins will not have failed. And I think that could lead to War Games. Going with Drew. Have to go with Drew. I don't care if I'm wrong. I'm going with Drew. So that leaves us, obviously, the most predictable match of the night. People like my Drew McIntyre. I can't think about it. If I do it without thinking about it, it sounds a lot better. But Roman Reigns. It has to be. It will be. But this will be one of those moments that we'll look back on and say, even though LA Knight lost, he won. You know, Steve Austin did that at WrestleMania 13. I know if jumping way too many years ahead, but Sami Zayn did an Elimination Chamber. There are some times where when you lose, you end up better because of it. And if you want to compare LA Knight to Steve Austin, remember what I said last week. Steve Austin lost many, many championship opportunities before he won it all in 1998. Steve Austin lost several matches, big matches leading into that, and still got better and better and more popular and more over. And then when he finally won, it was, you know, look, they have Mike Tyson there. I mean, they made sure that that win was going to be monumental. Of course, it won't get to that levels for LA Knight, regardless of who he defeats for the World Heavyweight Championship in the future. But this is going to solidify LA Knight as a bona fide main eventer in the WWE. That's all you can ask for, and that's all you should be asking for. You know, there are some sites that are trying to tease people that WWE seriously considering having LA Knight have a run and then lose it to Roman, and then Roman will ultimately lose it. Shut up. These are just people trying to get you to click on their shit for any reason whatsoever. Even if you click on them and say, what are you, fucking dumb? You know, LA Knight is not winning this. LA Knight will come this close. He will come this close to winning it. But he will lose. Now, the big question here is, and I touched on this yesterday. When we talk about Survivor Series War Games, and when other people talk about it as well, do you ever notice that a lot of people leave LA Knight out on the War Games team? Some people do include him, but a majority of people leave him out. They use Sami Zayn, Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, you know, possibly Seth Rollins, even a little reuniting of Kevin Owens, which I doubt. You don't hear many, some people say Drew McIntyre. You don't hear many people say LA Knight. And maybe that's the reason, because majority of the other team is Raw. But I don't see LA Knight in War Games. So if LA Knight loses, if Solo Sikoa causes him to lose, you know, does he feud with Solo Sikoa next? If Jimmy Uso gets involved and causes him to lose, you know, does he feud with him next? Like, where does LA Knight go from here? That's what I'm really trying to figure out here, because remember, War Games, I can't picture Nick Aldis in storyline telling Adam Pearce, yeah, you could have LA Knight on your team against my bloodline. That makes no sense. What I see happening is we have the immediate road to Survivor Series, and LA Knight will be the leader of a Team SmackDown taking on Team Raw, not a War Games match, but a traditional 5-on-5 Survivor Series match. And that's where LA Knight will come into play. We may get something as stupid as next Friday on SmackDown, somebody comes out and just laughs at LA Knight, and boom, there's a feud. just to get him away from the Judgment Day any way possible. Somebody's going to have to divert LA Knight away from the bloodline, because you're not going to do a rematch with Roman. So the big question is, who gets involved? That's what we got to figure out. Yeah, a lot of people think Randy Orton's returning. CM Punk is not returning for Survivor Series. Let's get that out of the way. But Roman Reigns all the way. And the big question is, who will cause LA Knight the loss? We'll see. Could it be a Judgment Day member? Could it be Damian Priest? Be interesting. All right. So that is your crown jewel. So before we wrap this up with Halloween Havoc, we're in an hour and 45 minutes. We'll be done by 2 hours. So very quickly, a little preview for this week in wrestling history, and this week is a fun one. It is the anniversary of the infamous Saturday night's main event, where I know a lot of Jit Gel Regs came out that night for the outfit that Miss Elizabeth was wearing. That was a memorable Saturday night's main event. I think that's the Saturday night's main event where Junkyard Dog wrestled. I can't remember who he fought, but this was a tremendous. Was that when George the Animal Steel broke away from Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik? I don't remember, but I remember the bobbing for apples. But Halloween Saturday night's main event, 1985, awesome time. A lot of Steve Austin this week in wrestling history. It is the anniversary of Roddy Piper's movie They Live, hit movie theaters. The Brainbusters abruptly left the WWF, more because of the Tully Blanchard stuff. The Hollywood Blondes, unfortunately, split up this week in wrestling history. Steve Austin this week in 95 was ripping the shit out of Eric Bischoff doing the Monday Nyquil skits in ECW. And one infamous skit in ECW, I'll play a few moments of it, only because sometimes people say that LA Knight sounds like Steve Austin. Believe it or not, here's a little video from 1995, a little audio from 1995, where I think Steve Austin sounds like LA Knight. This was, if I remember correctly, in upstate New York. And Sandman was in the ring with Mikey Whipwreck, Steve Austin, and Woman, God rest her soul, the former Nancy Benoit, Nancy Sullivan. She was married to Nancy Sullivan, to Kevin Sullivan at the time. And this was a little promo that Steve Austin cut. Let's throw a little picture on the screen. Here we go. Steve Austin. And he looks a lot like Hulk Hogan, too. He does.
A couple of people got smart with me on the way to the building today and said I was a Hulk Hogan wannabe. One of them said I looked like Hulk Hogan. I've been crapped on for 4 years. I believe I deserve a break. I didn't get to climb a ladder to the top in WCW like this. I'm up here all the way at the top, and I look down, and I see two jabronis. And from the places I've been, about a $5 piece of ass. Whipwreck, you amaze me, son, because you're a go-getter. You ain't got no quit in you. You don't know what the word quit means. I respect you for that. But you're still just a loser in my book, son.
Nice guy.
This is Steve Austin talking to you, and if I'm calling you a loser, you can damn well bet it's the truth.
What a jerk.
Keep drinking a few more beers, smoke a couple more cigarettes, because yeah, you're sure you're really, really cool. Brother, I'm gonna get your ass in the ring and I'm gonna run circles around you. And when your tongue's hanging out there by your feet, and I'm walking off with a damn belt in my hands, you're going to wonder, what the hell was I thinking? That's Steve Austin.
On second thought, maybe I like him.
I've met a Mikey Whipwreck. It's not one of the misfits back there in that godforsaken dressing room, man. This is Steve Austin. Don't get me wrong, hey. I can rustle up $5, and if I had a clothespin to put on my nose, I'd give you a try.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Throw a little shade at Nancy Sullivan. All right, continuing on. This week in history, the infamous segment with Brian Pillman on Raw with the Pistola. Anybody remember Taboo Tuesday? Steve Austin was supposed to take on Jonathan Coachman. There is a very young Kurt Angle in ECW. That was the night that Kurt Angle was on commentary. And then they did that crucifixion shit. I actually have the audio when he was on commentary that night in ECW. So if you want to check that out. This week in wrestling history, also, a lot of people don't know this, but Rocky Maivia made his TV debut. Everybody thinks that Survivor Series was the debut of The Rock, Rocky Maivia on WWE TV. This was, I think, November 1st or November 4th. They showed Rocky Maivia on TV the week before. So that's a little screenshot for you. And then just to wrap up a couple of tidbits this week in wrestling history. Oh, my God. Daniel Puder and Kurt Angle. Jesse Ventura, I think he won the governorship. Oh, look at that. Currenty Frog here. Oh, that's me. Who remembers the Muppets? Anybody remember the Muppets on Monday Night Raw? There is CM Punk with the Muppets.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's guest stars on Monday Night Raw can be seen in the new movie, The Muppets, which opens in theaters everywhere November 23rd. Please welcome at this time, The Muppets, Kermit the Frog, and Miss Piggy!
Blow that shit up. Blow that shit up. I hated... That is one of the worst guest hosts of all time. The Muppets. Hey, Kermit the Frog here. Yeah, here's another one for you. Who remembers... Oh, that's too small. Who remembers this? Anybody remember? TNA Eliminate the Hate? If you go on the website now, it doesn't exist. Yeah, they tried to start an anti-bullying campaign. Give them credit for trying. That is a very young AJ Styles. EliminateTheHate.com. And for people that don't remember the promo for it, I listened back to it, and whoever did the guitar solo, Jeff Jarrett should have smashed him over the head with the guitar. It was good intentions, but it just came off so bad. Who remembers 2010 TNA Eliminate the Hate? You'll hear some familiar voices.
It's time.
It's time to stop the name calling,
the hurt,
the bullying.
Because of race, creed, color,
sexual orientation. It's time to treat everyone like you want to be treated.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time to eliminate.
eliminate,
Eliminate the hate.
eliminate the hate.
eliminate the hate.
Nailed it. Yeah. You think they would came out with some sadder music? This sounds like you're going to Western Beef, to buy steaks. It's who came up with that music? My God. All right. Just to wrap up this week in Wrestling History's preview. Very memorable video game, WWE 2K13. Who remembers WWE's ECW? There's the Sandman with a clown. Anybody remember that? Oh, look at that. Rusev with Sheamus. Very interesting moment. And one of my favorite moments. Actually, I got two for you. Who remembers the Hardys? Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions. I will tell you this much. This was 7 years ago. I ask you, did Matt Hardy's broken character, I'm not saying this to be a jerk, but I'm asking an honest question. In all of that time, did Matt Hardy's character ever develop? Did it ever, grow? Because I'm going to play you a little clip from 7 years ago, and if I would have said that this was played on Dynamite last week, you probably would have bought it.
Yes! I must admit, it's quite delightful to partake in the honorable ring once again. And I must also admit, Bucks of Youth, Dim Boys, that was quite the intoxicating matchup you just participated in. I don't know if you've known this, but myself and Brother Nero have been mandated to prove we are the greatest tag team in all of time and all of space. And if that means we must come to ROH and render you ramshackle rednecks and you spot monkeys obsolete, then we will. But be warned, Bucks of Youth, if myself and Brother Nero come to the honorable ring, we will delete your tag team title reign. Delete, 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 delete.
I didn't say that he's still doing a broken character now. I'm saying in 7 years, during that 7-year span between 2016, did the character ever develop? Did it ever grow? If he was doing broken Matt right now, I don't think it would have been any different than what it was 7 years ago. All right, one more for you. Only because since Carlito is back, this was kind of memorable. It was Taboo Tuesday 18 years ago. Taboo Tuesday. Who remembers Mick Foley and Carlito? Which faces of Foley was Carlito going to get? And this was the promo that Mick Foley cut.
So you think you know cool, my fine afro little friend? Well, you're talking to the man who invented the word dude love. And should the fans vote for me, taking into consideration your all-out assault on the dude's twig and berries, I can guarantee you this: the dude will not have mercy. Unfortunately, Carlito, Cactus Jack doesn't have any guarantees because I have no idea what I might do at Taboo Tuesday. Barbed wire baseball bat, no guarantee. Thumbtacks, no guarantees. A bed of nails, no guarantees. Wait, Carlito. I do have one guarantee. Pain, baby! Oh, Carlito, what you did last week wasn't cool or neato, so I guess I'll have to make you bleedo, like Rocky and Apollo Credo. On mankind's two fists you will feedo, as if they were two giant Cheetos. Or if you're in the mood for cotton tacos, say hello to Mr. Sacco. And when the match is all completo, you'll leave skid marks inside your Speedo. Have a nice day.
I tell you, when that went down, me being a hardcore fan of Cactus Jack, I thought Cactus Jack would be a landslide. And then he pulls that shit out with Mankind, and people pop big for that. Fucking Mankind. I tell you, 18 years ago, Carlito still looks tremendous, man. And speaking of time gone by, I have to pose this question. I brought it up over the weekend. Yesterday was the 10-year anniversary of Chris Jericho launching his reality TV series. It was on, I think it was YouTube, but I'm Chris Jericho. If you've never seen them, watch them. They're online. I even think his website is still available. I watched them when they came out. Nice attempt at trying to become a movie star. It got cringe at times, but very interesting. 10 years ago, this came out yesterday. But I will say this, when you watch any of these clips, if you check it out, is it just me or did Chris Jericho age a lot in 10 years? I mean, Chris Jericho, I know they do makeup and all this other stuff, but I look at that and I'm like, there's no way that's only 10 years ago. Especially when you look at Carlito over here. There's no facial hair and everything, but Carlito, that's 18 years ago. This is 10 years ago. Chris Jericho, to me, aged a lot more. So, so that's it. Little preview for this week in wrestling history. Hey, Kermit the Frog here. You're tuning into Don Tony. Yay! All right, let's wrap this up. This will be very quick for various reasons. Obviously, Halloween Havoc will be in the books by the time most of you tuning in. And but we still got to cover it because last week we were almost picture perfect. And I intend to be picture perfect once again. So, Halloween Havoc night, week 2 takes place on Halloween. We have Chelsea Green and Piper Niven defending the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships against JC Jane and Thea Hale. It will be a fun match, but there is obviously no chance whatsoever that Chase University will hold the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. I kind of wish that the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships were still around, but they're not. But this will be a comedy match. As I said yesterday, I hope that Scarlett and Shotzi become a tag team and keep this going beyond Halloween. They've been killing it on WWE's, social media. They've been killing it with the Halloween stuff. They've been killing it with Halloween Havoc. They're dishing out a couple of new costumes tomorrow. They are really good as a pair. I don't know how far WWE wants to go with Scarlett in the ring as a wrestler, but this is going to be fun. We'll see if there's any outside interference here, but Piper Niven, Chelsea Green will get the win. No doubt about it. All right, moving on. We have Braun Breaker taking on Mr. Stone. A lot of people don't know much about Mr. Stone's days wrestling in TNA. He can wrestle. He is not old. He could still go. The thing you have to understand, my friends, is that Mr. Stone is not perceived as a wrestler in NXT. So even though he could probably wrestle circles around half of that NXT roster, he is not going to put on the type of match that we know that he can do. He is going to be more of, fuck, what did I get myself into? The big question is, does Von Wagner show up tomorrow? The storyline, there's been a lot of reality in it early on. The stuff about him as a baby is true. And to use that and have Braun cause, the damage to his skull is really raw and, get anybody over as a massive heel. But Von Wagner, because Mr. Stone, his friend, wait, you're my friend? You're going to willing to get your ass kicked for me? You're my friend? Von Wagner is trying hard to walk in that walker. You almost feel like Von Wagner is going to show up. And Mr. Stone's going to be like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You can't. I wonder, does Mr. Stone turn on Von Wagner? I say no. I thought about that. I thought that there was a chance he could turn on Von Wagner. But then what? Mr. Stone is not aligning with Braun Breaker. I don't think he's needed as a manager for Braun or anybody else. So what do you do with Mr. Stone then if he turns on Von Wagner? Plus, Von Wagner, this whole storyline, it's about fighting and coming back. This would be such a setback if his friend stabs him in the heart. So I don't think it's going to be that evil. because you might as well just stick a fork in Von Wagner and put him 6 feet under if his friend turns on him. So I'm going to say that Mr. Stone does not turn on Von Wagner. Does Braun get distracted and Mr. Stone rolls him up, gets the win? Does that happen? Can we buy it? Would we be willing to accept that? Do we do it just for fun purposes? I think we might have to. We're probably wrong, and I'm going to be mad if that's the only thing we get wrong. But I think that's going to happen. I think Braun Breaker is going to get distracted because Von Wagner is going to show up, and something is going to go wrong. And I think Mr. Stone is going to get the, unbelievable win. I think that'll be the most unexpected, shocking win. So, yeah, that's where we'll go with it. Fuck it. We'll go with it. Continuing on, Tiffany Stratton. I don't know how I feel with this match. I mean, you have the whole, the aura of Tiffany Stratton. Tiffany Stratton has done so good in her work. She was women's champion. And yes, look, I think they got to a point where we even admitted it. She won the women's championship, and then there was no star. Her biggest feud was Thea Hale. Before Becky Lynch, her biggest feud was Thea Hale. So that just shows you the roadblock that she ran into because of this. Now, she's taking on Fallon Henley. And this is all because Fallon Henley dressed up as her for Halloween and made fun of her. Do you have Fallon Henley go over on Tiffany Stratton? I say absolutely not. Tiffany Stratton has done next to nothing. She has grown with the Becky Lynch stuff, but at some point you have to put Tiffany Stratton back in the limelight, back in the bigger picture. I know people think Nikita Lyons will be returning soon. So Nikita Lyons and Tiffany Stratton may end up having a feud down the line. But here, I think you got to go with Tiffany Stratton. Fallon Henley is not bad, but you do not further, I don't want to say bury Tiffany Stratton, but she needs a little momentum. Last week, we said that Blair Davenport and Roxanne Perez both needed victories, and they got them. And there's a little bit of a momentum shift for them. I think Tiffany Stratton needs this win. Going with Tiffany. Next, we got the Creed brothers versus Los Lodarios. Spin the wheel. Make the deal. Tables, ladders, and scares. Do you dare have the Creed brothers lose 24 hours after beating the Alpha Academy? I say no. I originally was going with Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo to win this. But after seeing them on Raw tonight, I almost feel like they were on Raw as a little advertisement, like, hey, if you want to see more of us, tune in to Halloween Havoc tomorrow night on USA. I'm going with the Creed brothers to win this. I think the Creed brothers got to keep that momentum. For them to win on Raw and then lose on NXT, isn't that like kind of ass backwards? You would think they would win in NXT and lose on Raw because maybe they're not main roster ready. Going with the Creed brothers to win this one. It'll be an excellent match. And Angel and Humberto will sell great for them, but the Creed's got to get this. Now we got to see if anybody else gets involved. By the way, going back to Crown Jewel, we a little surprised in this year. Don't have a match. I'm kind of shocked at that. All right, continuing on. Dominic Mysterio taking on Nathan Frazier for the North American Championship. Boy, is this a hard one to call, because for months and months you've seen me with that Abbey Road Beatles tribute. We did the play on it with the Judgment Day. We put the briefcase and the titles on it. The Judgment Day, it was all about everybody holding gold. Everybody holding gold. Now going into Survivor Series, I don't think the gold is as necessary as it was before. Because now you're intertwining the Judgment Day and the Bloodline, and Jimmy Uso doesn't have a title. Solo Sikoa doesn't have a title. Yeah, Damian Priest and Finn Balor have titles, but I don't think Dominic Mysterio, him having a championship, is as important anymore. I think that moment where everybody held the titles, they had two different opportunities with that. They had two different moments. I don't think the championships are necessary, that everybody in Judgment Day needs to have it. So believe it or not, I'm going to go with Nathan Frazier. Last week, I chose Lyra Valkyria, and everybody thought I was nuts. I thought it was Lyra's time. Nathan Frazier, I don't think he could get any better momentum right now. You know, I think this is Nathan Frazier's peak as an NXT star so far. Nathan Frazier, he had his moments over the last 12 months, but, you know, there's always seemed like something just, I don't want to say stopping it, but it just always felt like he wasn't that over. Like, okay, you know, he's good, but there's a lot of other high flyers and there's a lot of other, like, but I think this feud with Dominic has brought out his personality a little bit more. And I also think the feud with Noam Dar for the Heritage Cup helped him a lot. I'm buying in on Nathan Frazier now more than I did even with Noam Dar's feud. I'm going Nathan Frazier. I think he's actually going to beat Dominic Mysterio. I think Dominic Mysterio needs to be focused more on Survivor Series and the main roster and, you know, main roster business and Judgment Day business. I don't think Dominic Mysterio is needed on NXT anymore. So I think Nathan Frazier wins this, and this might be Dominic's swan song in NXT. So, what does that leave us with? Well, I think two matches. Yes. Okay. Kalani Jordan versus Lola Vice in the finals of the NXT Women's Breakout Tournament. I have sung more praise to Lola Vice than probably anybody else on NXT over the last 6 months, 9 months. Valerie Loretta has taken to wrestling probably as good as Logan Paul or Bad Bunny. And the reason why I say that is because Bad Bunny has to train for one particular match, for spots. I mean, Bad Bunny hasn't been in the ring enough that he could, like, dictate a story or tell a story, or he prepares for one particular match for spots, and that's it. Logan Paul, similar. But Logan Paul just has that natural wherewithal in the ring, that he knows where he is at all times, and that timing is beautiful. With Valerie Loretta, she has taken wrestling so well that you see her in the ring and she doesn't ever look lost. She might not be the most polished person on the roster right now, but she's got a presence. She's worked her, you can't say she's worked her ass off, because she's got, you know, an ass. And she's not afraid to show it off too. If you check her social media, she's really worked her ass off. She's taken this very seriously. Wrestling, the wrestling bug is bitter. And plus, that backstory of her with an MMA career, now being the NXT Women's Breakout star, that's a conversation piece. That's a story. That is something you look back on a year from now, 5 years from now. Kalani Jordan is great, and in some ways came out of nowhere. You know, she was kind of like Dana Brooke's lackey for a little while. Then we thought Dana Brooke was going to turn on her, and that never happened because Dana Brooke got released. Kalani Jordan is, you know, if you look up her career, and there's not much there. So she has really significantly improved. Kalani Jordan, you could see that WWE feels they got something with her. But you do not put the breakout tournament winner spotlight on Kalani Jordan, in my opinion. That only goes to Lola Vice. Lola Vice will get this, and this will be a topic of conversation even outside of the wrestling world. Lola Vice, she's nailed it. She's nailed it. She's done a spectacular job, and I tell you, there's a lot of people out there that don't like to watch the progression of a wrestler. Some people wrestle in NXT and they suck, and they're new. And, you see as they develop. A year ago, you look at Lola Vice when she first started, not very good out there. And people be like, oh, why is she on her TV? This and that. At some point, you got to start, getting the person comfortable. And remember, WWE doesn't do many NXT house shows as much as you think. But Lola Vice is getting this. She's got to get this, in my opinion. And I think the main event is very predictable as well. There's no way you take the belt off of Ilya Dragunov this soon. I'm a little surprised they didn't do spin the wheel, make the deal for this match. The big question in this match is Trick Williams. Does he show up? Does he get involved? Do we see camera footage that wasn't available last week or the week before? And there's a reveal of who attacked Trick Williams. If you remember 2 weeks ago, I said, let it be Wes Lee. Let it be Wes Lee. And a lot of people are like, oh, what are you talking about? He's a babyface. I said, no. I think Wes Lee, remember, right before he packed his bags and went home, people don't watch NXT on a weekly basis. You don't see these things. But Wes Lee, when he was packing up his locker, Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams were sitting there talking. And they paid no mind to Wes Lee. They didn't wish him well. They didn't say goodbye. They didn't, give him any love, no hug, no nothing. They just had a conversation and acted like he wasn't there. And I think Wes Lee may be revealed as the one who attacked Trick Williams. And Wes Lee will either feud with Ilya or Carmelo or Trick. You could go many different ways with that. But I think Trick Williams shows up. Maybe Trick accuses Carmelo of attacking him. Just like Braun Breaker and others have tried to stir the pot. But I'm going to go with Ilya to retain. And I'm curious if Wes Lee does make an appearance. The only problem with that is how far do you go with this storyline in one night? Because remember, the match ends. It ends around 10:05 p.m. Their overrun usually only goes 10:07. I don't think they're going to 10:15. But, you have to dedicate 5-10 minutes of explanation if you're going to go that far and do a reveal like that. So I don't know if all of that will be revealed at Halloween Havoc. But I think Trick Williams returning is a must. If there is a teaser, or maybe he thinks that Melo did something, maybe Wes Lee does show up. Maybe Wes Lee, admits that he did something. We don't know. But I think the progression of this storyline is going to continue, and we'll see how much of it happens at Halloween Havoc. And I appreciate everybody in the chat that thinks that I'm right. I that's why we do these predictions. You think I like being wrong? I mean, look, we root for certain people. We want to see certain scenarios. Unfortunately, the problem that you and I have a lot is we think in our ways, and sometimes you got to think using WWE logic or AEW logic or Saudi Arabia logic. That does come into play. But I think Halloween Havoc week 2 is going to be just as good. We'll see some surprise. You're going to get some comedy with Akira Tozawa at the Haunted House with Noam Dar. Metaphor will be there. There'll be a couple of surprises. Heard a couple Hall of Famers may be making appearances in that Haunted House tomorrow. So it's going to be a fun night. I will be tuning in, and I'll be on Patreon afterwards. We'll be talking a little bit of Havoc, and we'll do our weekly Patreon show. And that's it. So I'm going to jet out of here. I thank you very much, everybody, for joining me tonight. Hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Now, don't forget, for my channel members here on YouTube and patrons, we will be doing a Crown Jewel Predictions contest. We'll be giving out a couple of 50s in the form of WWE, AEW, Amazon gift cards, or PayPal. And what we're going to do is we're going to put the predictions contest up late Wednesday night at midnight. And then it'll be up until Friday night at midnight. That'll give everybody 48 hours to take part in the contest. You got 48 hours because Friday night at midnight, contest closes. Because Saturday morning, I want to get up, I want to make my breakfast, my coffee, and I want to set up the computer for the show later on, and I want to enjoy Crown Jewel. Not have to, scramble and go nuts over it. But hope you all enjoy it. I hope everybody has a great rest of their week. And if you enjoyed the show, you know what to do. I don't think I need to tell you after all this time. And you all be well. And I'll catch you all again either tomorrow on Patreon or Wednesday for Wednesday Night Dynamite. DonTony.com. Keep downloading the shows. We actually broke the top 30 in the UK this week because of, the DonTony.com influence. Right now, I think we're like 45 in the US. So somebody told me that for 2 weeks, just do audio only, just to see where the rankings end up, because then all the shows will have to be accessed through audio only, because video does skew the numbers quite a bit. But I'll take it as long as we're in the top 50. We get a little exposure out of it, and that's, what is needed. But I thank you all, as always, for the support. Much love, and I'll talk to you all again soon. Be well.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.